So Monday, we talked about acceptance. As Charlotte said yesterday, Tuesday, talked about patience. With a meditative practice and with reflecting on these virtues, you may find that you're able to seat yourself in the moment a little bit better. Just situate right down in there. You're not charging out ahead. You're not lagging behind. There's an ease with allowing yourself to be in the flow of the force rather than charging forward under your own steam. And when you do that, you're not operating out of ego anymore as much. So you can actually start looking around, looking at the people around you, not worried about your own performance or, what you're trying to get out of the moment, but really looking at them. Because now they're part of this gallery of what's happening in the present moment. Even if it's distracting, even if it's annoying, just watching like you would at the zoo. You're a spectator looking interestedly at your life. And if you're really in the moment, then you're not hard charging, trying to get your to-do list done. You're just looking around, recognizing. When you do that, you start going, oh my gosh, look at these other beings around me. They're myself. Maybe they're feeling insecure, uncomfortable, needing some attention. Maybe they're agitated, distracted, grumpy. And maybe for the first time, your heart can go out to them a little bit, instead of just seeing them as an obstacle or something in your own particular set piece. You can look at them on their own terms, because now you're in their world. And what happens when you do that? You start seeing yourself in them. Your own beingness is reflected in them. You go, oh, wow, they're like my very own. They're my kin. They're my kindred. That's what it means when your heart goes out to somebody, doesn't it? The vibrations of your heart start connecting with their heart. And you go, oh my gosh, we're not as separate as I thought we were. There's a practice in Buddhism called Tonglen that I learned from the teachings of Pema Chodron. And it seems a little bit dangerous. And I'm not here to prescribe approaches from the Buddhist perspective. That's their business. I'm not, a card carrying anything. Certainly not a card carrying Buddhist, but all I can share is like my reflections of what I've seen and understood about Tonglen, which is just a universal human exercise in looking at coherence around us and bringing coherence to it. Looking at something unsettled and bringing settlement to it. Looking at somebody who is writhing and suffering, whether it's of their own design or external. And you can breathe in their incoherence, and you can breathe out coherence. You can breathe in darkness, and you can breathe out light. Spiritual people love to say, oh, bring the light into the darkness, light into the darkness. No such thing. Darkness is lighter than light. Darkness is just compressed light. It's like a black hole. All the lights of all the suns and the supernovas and quasars brought into a black hole. Wow, that's dark. Let's bring some light in there. No, don't do that, because there's already too much in there. You need to unpack the light that's already there. If you have compassion for somebody, it means you see yourself in them, isn't it? You see them as yourself, not as a metaphor, but in actuality. Oh, this is myself. I'm suffering. Let me help myself. I don't have to solve anybody's problems. I don't have to cure anybody. I don't have to heal anybody. There's a note there. This is a fundamental thing. It doesn't have to do with just compassion. This is very important. People talk about good and evil, light and dark, justice and injustice. And then all the rest of the dualities, good and bad, day and night, male and female, ones and zeros, on and off, progressive and conservative, x-axis, y-axis. These things that are seemingly in irreconcilable competition with each other are actually collaborating on a deeper level. They talk about Lucifer being cast out of heaven by God. God is infinity, correct? Is that a mathematical possibility? What is infinity minus 1? Oops, you're out of the frame now. You're out of God now. Nope. That's all God. What about all the suffering in the world? As we said yesterday, if the Divine Mother and if God are just and loving, how do they allow so much suffering in the world? It's because they are just, because they are loving. God recognizes that suffering is the tissue of our liberation. It's the very education that liberates us. It's not like, oh, I just got rid of that obstacle, but now I can touch liberation. No, it's by virtue of that obstacle that you become liberation. It's because of the darkness that you get enlightened. So if you take this much, love is the substance. Love is the baseline substance. It's like Nisargadatta talked about, there is one substance, not two substances. How can you have two substances? God plus something else? Oh, there's me and there's God, and then there's the rest of the world, and it's acting on me, and God created it, and there's Satan over here. So you've got like quadrants of equal beingness for God, Satan, yourself, the world. No, one. And just like the body, every little corner of the body works in consilience with every other little corner. Every human being is secretly collaborating with every other human being. What about the war in the Middle East? These are the entrenched conflicts, these generational hatred. It's collaboration in disguise. They say that about business. Best thing to do is put yourself right in the corner, catty corner from another business that's your competitor. That's the best way to be successful. Because now you're drawing a lot of people, they know what's happening over there, and you're also making each other better. You're looking at each other's best practices. You're trying to keep up with the Joneses. It's like playing tennis against a really good opponent is what you need if you want to become a good tennis player, right? You just play against the sun, Saturday duffer every time, and they go dink, lob it up every single time back to you, and you really hit a great down the line ground stroke, and they just go kink and just pop it back up to you. You're never going to get very good. You need to play somebody who really challenges you, who hurts you, who puts you in uncomfortable positions and corners and makes you fight your way out to survive. And in the case of war, it's the highest possible stakes, isn't it? Death. What's the worst that can happen? You could die. What happens when you die? You go to heaven. I don't care what tradition you come from. Most people concede that you go to heaven. There's some place of, higher awareness and bliss. Every tradition I know of, maybe the scientists or the atheists say that you don't have that. You just go into a black hole, but fine. You're in a 6-foot box, 6 foot under. Great. No more pain. Wherever you're going, there's no more pain. So the worst that could happen is the best that could happen. So take that for what it's worth. And everything along the way is, people are putting you on the spot. Your enemies are putting you on the spot. People talk about the devil as being the enemy. The enemy is putting you on the spot, but it's tough love. Because even the devil is part of God's overarching plan. You need the darkness to highlight the light, don't you? That's a trite thing to say. That's a pretty easy thing to say in theory. It's like Yogi Berra says, in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice. In practice, there is. Here's the practice. Go out and see everything ugly in life. Sick people, tormented people, evil people, agitated people. Coming at you. What happens when you see them with compassion? When you see yourself in the other? Not as a metaphor, but as a reality. We are quantum entangled, aren't we? See all the stars back there? Every one of them can speak with each other. They don't have to go the speed of light to go light years. The space brothers and sisters, they don't have to go the speed of light. That's like driving the speed limit we were talking about yesterday. They just get there. Kawam, from here, bing. Even though my hand's disappearing, that's where they get, the other side of the universe. Because we're quantum entangled. One vibration of one particle over here affects the vibration of this particle thousands of light years, millions of light years away. That's a long distance. Certainly those circuits between me and another human being in the same cafe in physical proximity are pretty close. And we find through the practice of Tonglen, we find through the practice of meditation and through spiritual practice in general, that I am the other. There's no difference, and there are no others. If I see somebody who comes at me real hot and heavy with anger, resentment, rage, they're crying out, aren't they? They want attention. They want to be heard. Some people are proselytizing for this and that, and you hear them holding forth in public spaces, standing on soapboxes, much like I am right now, proclaiming this, that, or the other thing. And everybody's like, oh, shut up. It's because no one listens that they have to, raise their voice and go shout at the world. They're like petulant children who are not getting attention from their distracted parents. If you can love them, if you can open your heart, this torus field here of the heart, just as a silent exercise, not to be obnoxious about it, but just to open some space for them. What happens? That darkness starts unpacking. That this much love, that's the substance, right? This much love creates, in a space that's compacted, tight, creates this much darkness. All this goodness confined into a small space, that becomes evil. That's what we call evil. That's what we call violence, aggression, war, hatred. Underneath that, undergirding all of that is love, isn't it? That's all anybody wants until they drop the body. They want the love of other people, the love of God, the love of themselves, but they can't get it. What if you give it to them? Not in a demonstrative, obnoxious way. Pardon me, sir or madam, may I bestow you with my love? Here, take. And you feed somebody, oh, please eat this, enjoy. When that's what the prasad of Neem Karoli Baba. He didn't do it when he gave, when he opened his blankets and there's just these magical flowing rivers of snacks for people when they show up on buses unannounced. He didn't do it for any other reason than just the joy of giving. Love everyone, feed everyone. Is it those people, the incoherent problem children causing trouble in the public square? Is it their issue? Is that their problem to fix? No, it's actually your problem to fix. It's my problem to fix. Not in a way that is self-congratulatory and you're patting yourself on the back for making the world a better place. Helping people. I'm going to go help people. I always find that a little bit annoying. You're going to condescend to deliver your grace to these unworthy starvelings writhing on the ground. Just let them, to some degree, it's not your job. It's not my job. But it's part of the overall mission, at least for me, that's part of the overall mission. I don't need to do anybody's work for them. I don't need to accelerate their education, bring them up a grade level or anything. That's their business. But I can create a little bit of space for them. That's a pretty common spiritual circles. You hear about that a lot. I'm going to hold space for you. We'll hold space for each other. What's the benefit of that? Hold space. You're giving them room to move into, to unpack. You ever drive by a prison? There's a prison down in southern Colorado that I have driven by occasionally. I think it's called Canyon City Prison. Big old thing. It's like a giant field, just endless field. On top of that, like blacktop, barbed wire, cinder blocks, metal. Wow. That's not a very conducive environment to anything. These poor people, we put them in there. They've been beaten up to begin with. Then we throw them in this prison where they're just surrounded by lunatics threatening to beat up and kill them at every waking moment. The emotional amplitude is high. You take all that human love of these very dynamic, beautiful individuals and stuff them into a little box. Very hard surfaces. Nothing pleasant about it. Maybe put them in the same cell with their cellie who's a maniacal killer. That's not very fun. 24/7, you got to watch your back. So it's vibrating in there. You can drive by, and if you're at all sort of energetically attuned, you can feel it going. It's like a nuclear reactor. So much love contained in such a small space. 100 people, 1,000 people. I don't know how many people are in these prisons. Put them all in this much love in this much space becomes darkness. So don't bring the light into the darkness. There's no room for it. Let the darkness unpack. Let it open up like a nuclear reaction. How do you create space? Here and here. People say this is the throat chakra, heart chakra, throat chakra, high heart, whatever. This is the throat. That's not the throat chakra. This is the throat chakra. Because even as I'm speaking, I'm listening. I'm listening on a quantum level to everybody who's ever going to look at this. Whether it's one person or millions. I'm speaking to them right now. I'm speaking to you right now. And as I'm speaking, I'm listening. Because if those words can't find purchase, what's the use of opening your mouth? No benefit. So if I'm going to hold space for somebody, I got to listen to them, don't I? I went up to Dollar General the other day. Did you ever go in one of those? The business model is, let's have it very understaffed, this giant warehouse-like space with all these cheap products. They do pretty good at it. Apparently, wherever they position these businesses, they do pretty well. They're very well market researched. But you walk in and it's like, there's just nothing in there. And then somebody trundles around the corner. Hello? Do you need anything? Yeah, can I check out? Okay. This lady was like, so when we pulled up, she was out front smoking with some other lady. And you could just tell by her body language, she was complaining about stuff. And her friend's like, oh, yeah. And they're grumbling together, you know, like two characters out of the Muppets or something. And at the end, we walked up, which I'm just trying to check out. And she's like, we said, where's the frozen, what do they call them? Popsicles. She's like, we don't have any popsicles because this freezer system went down and they won't repair it. You need to write them. You need to write corporate. Let them know. The whole sector 3, 4, 9, and 4 went down. I'm like, this is none of my business, lady. Please. We're just trying to, you know, get some gum and get out of here. But I had to just, you know, when someone's speaking at you like that with that force, it's a force, it's a physical force, that anger, that agitation, that anxiety. You know, this is a life unrealized yet. It's full of missed opportunities and bad decisions and wrong corners. I hate to overgeneralize, but that's what this lady was. But inside is just a petulant child, you know, crying out for attention. Listen to me, help me, please help me. And so I just listened, you know, nodded along. I didn't like commiserate. Oh yeah, the darn corporate people, they just are there to, you know, squash the little guy. They don't care. I wasn't like that, but I just listened, you know. And you open up that bandwidth for people. If you open up the bandwidth of the divine Shakti, of the Holy Spirit, that's a big old bandwidth. We talked about that yesterday. It's the carrier wave that conveys all other energies. So it's open enough to fit everybody, every jagged frequency of energy, of color that wants to come into that. It's like a bonfire. You know, the divine Shakti is like a bonfire. You're getting a little Shakti pot, you know, a little dosage when you go to your teacher. She or he will give you that presence. You sit in front of Anandamayi Ma and you're just going to be suffused with the divine. That's the Shakti. You'll feel it. It feels like electricity in the system radiating out through the spine, up through the different channels, purifying the nadis, purifying the cells. It's a bonfire that's going. Once it's going, I don't care what you throw on it, it's going to burn in it. Any old thing becomes fuel. So that's what I did. I just, you know, opened up that bandwidth as wide as possible. let that bonfire blaze, and no matter what she threw in it, the temptation is to take it to heart and get offended or get annoyed or taken aback. Geez, lady. But I just listened, and nodded along and just contained it, brought it in, invited it into the fire to burn. And at the end, we went back to the truck, and we looked back, and she's with her smoking friend out there, but they're not smoking anymore. They're just dancing. They're literally dancing out in front of it, out of the store, smiling, laughing. There was something just deeply knotted and compacted inside that was allowed to express itself finally. Somebody listened. Her parents may not have. Her compatriots, her schoolmates, anybody might not have listened. Her fellow man and woman. If you can listen, that's compassion. That's the purest expression of compassion. Not to try to correct anybody, not to save the world, but just to let it. That's what they say about women, and men. Men want to solve everything all the time. Women just want to be heard. They'll tell you your problems, and the man's like, "Oh, great, we're going to fix it, and this is what we're going to do." Okay, all right. Here's A, B, and C, and I'm going to call my friend Larry, and we're going to get this done. She's like, "I don't want any solutions. Please, just hear me. Don't tell me how I'm wrong. Don't berate me. Don't figure out a solution. That's not what I'm asking for. I just want to be heard." And it's the same for all people, I think. If you don't want to be heard, you wouldn't be out in public rooting around for attention, would you? You'd sit at home, I guess. Just to be kind of a carbon filter. There's a lady who works at one of the stores in my town at the foot of this holy mountain. And she gets all kinds coming to her. And she gets a little wrapped up sometimes, a little wound up. But she's got a deeply profound spiritual presence, of the Divine Mother. And I told her, you know what you are? You're a carbon filter. You're like a spiritual carbon filter. She was like, oh yeah, I guess. I think, sometimes it only just takes a moment to just crystallize one's understanding about one's mission or one's benefit to the world. Then it doesn't become a chore and a big heavy lift and a headache, brain damage. It just becomes like a beautiful thing. Addressing all these deeply wounded, sick people. What is sickness? What is illness? What is disease? These are illusions. Disease is a coiled spring. Trauma is a coiled spring that lives somatically in the body somewhere. Heart, lungs, viscera, somewhere else. Often because of one's own attachment. You hear about cancer described as a resentment disease. We talked about it yesterday. People who are grievance collectors, they resent the world. They collect grievances. They go around putting them in their bag like seashells. And the energy that should have radiated through them naturally in the course of the day, they grab it, hold on to it. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to wrestle this out. They're going to know I'm right. They're wrong. I'm right. I want to punish them. I'm going to get back at them. Hold on to those vibrations. You densify those vibrations enough, it starts to kind of hang into something that starts to resembling a thing. A tumor. It's not a tumor. It is a tumor. That's a coiled spring waiting to be actuated, and may not even happen in this lifetime. Maybe it's over many lifetimes that spring is set into motion, that potential energy starts to become kinetic energy. If you're beaten up when you're a kid, parents beat the heck out of you, bullies at school beat you up, knock you down, pound you. Wow, what a travesty, what a horrible miscarriage of justice. They're actually entraining you. The bully is entraining the, what would you call him? The nerd? Call him a nerd. The weakling? Goober? The bully is entraining the goober into the frequency of his own power or her own power. There's not a lot of female bullies around the schoolyard, but maybe there are. What do they call them? Girl bosses, mean girls? I guess there are, but they're not the type to go and beat you up, like upside the head, dogpile you and yank your ear like that. That's what the bully does. What is he doing? He's entraining the young lad. He's entraining the young weakling into his power. And the weakling's struggling and it hurts. It hurts. It hurts because that's the force of God coming in. That's the power of the universe saying, stand up, buddy. Get strong. Be strong. Don't be a skinny little weakling writhing on the floor. Get up. Fight for yourself. I think most fathers, when their son comes home from school after a fight, they'll have to be like, "Oh, son, this is bad. You know, you shouldn't be behaving this way. This is not how one comports oneself in the school environment." They do that for show. Inside, they're really thinking, "Good job, buddy. Fight back. Give him a bloody nose." When I was a little kid, my parents, I was having a problem with a bully. His name was Kelly. I went to a school, a little Montessori school. I was like 4 years old, I guess. There's this young lad called Kelly, beefy, blonde, Nordic young gentleman, bigger than me. And I remember he kind of gave me a hard time. He had this horrible jacket, this leather, pleather, like baby poop colored pleather jacket. I just remember being, I don't want to say terrified, but a little intimidated by him. And I told my parents about it. He was bothering me. And I don't know if it was my mom or dad, but one of them was like, "You need to look him in the eye, David. Just look him in the eye." And so I think I might have misunderstood them a little bit. I remember going back to the schoolyard and trying to contend with this kid. And I went back and they said, "Did you look him in the eye?" And I said, "Yeah, I did. But I tried to look him in the eye, but I couldn't lick him in the eye. So I licked him on the nose." I thought they were saying lick him in the eye. So I mean, just imagine this strange young kid trying to lick somebody in the eye and but missing and licking him on the nose. They must have been like, "Oh, that's one of those kind of strange kids. Nose licking. That's the kind." That's what the bully is inviting us to do, is to lick him in the eye. The bully's inviting us to lick him on the nose. Stand up, fight for yourself, have a backbone. Don't just roll over. So the weak are having their day, though. The nerds are having their day, aren't they? Look at all the Steve Jobses and Bill Gateses and Warren Buffett's of the world. Elon Musk's. Guarantee they were bullied when they were in their youth. Snapped with a wet towel in the showers. That's got to be just the most terrifying, horrible thing, to just go into an environment where you're just going to be like relentlessly mocked and persecuted. But ultimately, what does it do? It makes them stand up and fight for something. All right, Jeff Bezos, go and open up a corner of your garage and start piling some books over there that you can sell. Now Jeff Bezos, has a beautiful wife, has a good amount of money. He's got a yacht so big they've got to like deconstruct a bridge just to get the mast through. That'll show you, bullies. Who's having the last laugh now? So, it looks like a real miscarriage of justice when stop bullying, stop the war, stop aggression, stop. Not necessarily. I mean, it's really the force that hones us. It's like when you're making a sword, you see those shows with the blacksmiths, it's all hot and fiery. Heat and pressure, fire and brimstone. That's what hones that knife, that sword. Do you have groups of lobbyists and legislators and people with signs and placards and things that are getting signed around saying, stop the fire, too much fire in the sword making process, tone it down? So you got to just like open the stove and put on the burner and kind of like put the thing over that. I'm going too far into that, but you know what I'm saying. If you can look at the most maniacal, evil-looking person or force out in the world, and you can recognize the divinity in them, and you can look at the lowliest worm-like wretched creature floundering on the ground and recognize the humanity and the divinity in them. See yourself in them. You can have compassion for them. If you can have compassion for them, you can have compassion for yourself. That's the ultimate job. Don't worry about them, worry about you. Having compassion for them is a means of going back to your own native state of comfort and bliss and perfection that has been convoluted and diluted and stirred up by this crazy, chaotic world of ours. Those are the forces that refine us. Those are the forces that galvanize us. Those are the forces that make us stand up in our power and become something. Not compassion for a pat on the back, not compassion so people can call you compassionate. That's really stupid. She sure is a compassionate person. You don't do it for that. You just do it for the pure internal joy of being present for another human being or beings, the whole world. Charlotte had this progression laid out for the whole week. As I said, we started Monday with acceptance. That lays the groundwork. Patience, that lets you really seat in there. Compassion, that lets you start taking a little bit more active role. And then Charlotte, what comes next after that for the rest of the week?
Hi, yes. So tomorrow we'll be touching on humility, and on Friday it's courage. So we invite you to join us live in Zoom. You may check out our website link to register and schedule. We'll have it in the description box in our YouTube channel. To our viewers on YouTube, we encourage you to comment us your thoughts where we can discuss it further throughout the week. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel to stay updated on our next live stream videos.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning.